Hi, welcome back. Some people have asked questions concerning the tool head on the 1050, whether or not they really are interchangeable between the RL and the Super models. And the short answer is yes. There is a caveat. There are some attachments on it that will not transfer because the stroke is greater on this one. So this ratchet mechanism back here at the back has to go on this machine and that one on that one. But they just simply can be swapped over on the heads themselves. The heads themselves are the same. Here's what you'll need. Mostly a 15/16. Better have a socket wrench than an open wrench, but you know, whatever. And that's about it. But to get this thing off, what you really need to do is get some things out of the way, namely this primer feed mechanism, this thing that moves the primer slide back and forth back here that runs on a cam. You need to get that out of the way, otherwise it's just going to be nigh on to impossible to get this thing off easily. It can be done. I've watched people do it and you see them struggling. They're down there and they're saying, if I could get my tongue. It's not hard if you take this off. The second thing is, you know you'll have to do it, but everybody forgets, is around here on the back there's a little pin that attaches to the powder measure, and it links it to a bar, a little rod that pulls down on it at the end of each stroke to make sure that it returns home. And you just got to remove that pin. Okay, so this piece right here has got to go. There are at least two ways you can get rid of it. One, which is what I frequently do, is simply loosen this screw and slide the whole thing up, and then you put it back. And it requires some adjustment after, but it's really not all that hard. The second method, which is I think what Dillon designers, what Mike Dillon must have had in mind, is to remove this cotter pin back here, and then you can just lift the thing out. That's extremely easy to do. What's not easy to do is put it back in. But we'll do it that way this time, since that's how most people do it. So there you go. You pull that off and you're done. And then this just comes off and lifts out. And this is the part that we're talking about. This is one of the two parts that's longer. This assembly right here is longer on the Super than it is on the RL. And the other thing is, we want to pull this pin back here, and there's a little cotter pin, and then take that little drawbar and lift it out of there and drop it out of the way. Now nothing's connected to the head. Now earlier I removed the Mr. Bullet feeder part that goes down here. If you've got one of those, it needs to be disconnected from up above. Also, pretty obvious, you ought to take the case feeder off. And that just pops off, so no big deal. Okay, we are now ready to remove it. You can, if you wish, and it's not a big deal to do it, come back here and remove this cam pin, and then that will free up this little ratchet bar to fall out of the way. And you can this is the other part that is of a different length. It's longer on the Super than it is on the RL, but it just bolts on, so again, no big deal. If you remove that, you have absolutely nothing in the way, and that's super easy to do, so I recommend it. Raise it all the way up at this point, and it's also better if you start with all the way down for those first things. And then you want to break this loose. At that point, it becomes loose enough that you can just spin. You should be able to just spin the bolt out of there and the washer. Now there's a big spring back there, and the key to this is tip it slightly back as you go up, and then it's going to fall, and you just raise it. You got to guide it out of there, and that's it. Not hard at all. I mentioned in an earlier video that the spring this recoil spring is longer. Everything on the Super is bigger and longer. This is longer because of the greater stroke. And I mentioned that there's a cup down in here, and that's this little cup that the spring sits in that holds it in place. Well, there's a short cup and a long cup, just like there's a short spring and a long spring. So you get that in there. You just leave that in. I just took it out to show you. All right, there's the head. You set it aside at this point, complete with its deal. If you were going to move this over to an RL, then you would definitely want to take this ratchet off and replace it with the shorter one from the RL. In fact, let's just do that. All right, through the magic of speed up television, I will remove the tool head off the RL and we'll transfer it over to here, and I'll show you. So here you can see what I'm talking about how they are of different lengths. So this goes with the machine, as does the ratchet. All right, and there's the short ratchet, as you can see. Okay. All right, that stays with the machine as well. All right, this is the RL tool head, and I'm going to put it on the Super 1050. I hope if I can kind of wiggle myself in there. Raise that up. Kind of get it started. Come on, sport. There we go. Now then, almost always tilting it back is the key to getting it down in there. Now when you put this on here, do not tighten it. Just run it down until it's finger tight. And then we do in reverse order. We put our ratchet, hook, and the little cam pin. We'll put that on. Come on. All right. Things are in the way. All right. Oop. And like that. Now then. Goes on there very nicely. What I like to do before, I'll do this before I put the cam on there. Run it up and down with the head loose, and it'll lock into place, and then you can tighten it like that. Smooth this out. And all that's left then is to put the primer actuator back on here, and like I said, this is so hard for me. I don't know why. I have a kind of a blank. I'm going to show you from a different video angle what's going on back here. So that Wrong one. I will admit I did a better job. And when you're first doing this, be really gentle on your pull, because there's a high probability that something's out of alignment and it's going to stop you. Most likely it's going to be the primer slide is going to be slid forward and it's going to stop against this primer registration pin. But that's a real common thing. Aside from the bar back here on the powder, which I'm not even going to do, you can see that those heads are totally interchangeable. And that's how you swap them out. So, that's enough torture. Thanks for watching. Bye.